When you first get diagnosed with OCD, it can be very scary, overwhelming, and very confusing. And oftentimes you'll find yourself trying to figure out what are you supposed to do about this disorder. So this video is created to give you an introduction, and then I will go over each of the 4 parts to how to approach OCD in subsequent videos. But this video is created to give you a quick snapshot on if you're diagnosed or if you don't know what to do in your journey at the beginning, this video is going to be for you. So this is the 4 things that you can do right when you get diagnosed to give yourself the best chance for success. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing that you have to do is you need to learn about OCD. If you just Google OCD, or if you ask someone on the street about OCD, usually you'll get things about cleanliness or germs or being really organized. And really that's just not the case. So it's important that at the very beginning, you learn and understand this disorder that you are dealing with, because it's confusing and there's a lot of bad information out there. So how do you learn? Well, the first thing you can do is go to the IOCDF website, and they have a bunch of books and journals and periodicals about different things and what OCD is, what the therapy is, how it manifests itself. So the beginning, what you want to do is just kind of learn what it is. How does it manifest? What is it? This is important so that way, 1, you know that you're not alone, but 2, you understand what you're dealing with, right? I played baseball in college, and one of the things I learned is I couldn't be successful against another team unless I knew what was coming. What did their pitcher do? What did their hitters do, right? You had to understand what the opponent was doing. This opponent is OCD. Listen, you're an OCD warrior. We all are. But in order to become a warrior, you have to know the opponent. And the opponent is your OCD. So how do you learn? You got to get books and articles and journals written by people that understand OCD from the actual evidence-based approaches. Look down below for a link for some of the books. Check out the IOCDF website for some of the ways, the appropriate ways to learn. And on the next video, I'm going to dive deep into this. Okay? Step number 2. You need to find an OCD specialist. Any therapist will just not do. OCD is a very counterintuitive mental health disorder. A lot of the things that are done in traditional talk therapy for other disorders, if they are used in treating OCD, it's actually going to hurt your OCD. I'll use an example of myself for you all. When I went to the first psychologist, and this was a doctor, and we were talking, not a medical doctor, a psychologist, right? A PhD doctor. And we were talking about OCD. He said, look, you need to just tell yourself, go away thought, go away thought. And the other thing he said is, honestly, the only thing that's going to help OCD is medication. Now that approach was good in the 60s and 70s, but if you look at the literature now, and if you talk with any OCD specialists, that advice that I was given, 100% wrong. Now sure, medication definitely can help. I mean, that's proven in the literature as well. But to say go away and to say that's the only thing that will help you is absolutely 100% false. And unfortunately, many therapists do not fully understand how to treat OCD. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. In fact, I've had a lot of therapists reach out to me on social media asking me about OCD, because that is just something that for whatever reason in most schools is not covered unless you go into something specifically for OCD. So it's important that you find a specialist. So you can look at, specialists near me that are OCD, not just going online to Psychology Today. That's not good, because unfortunately a lot of people will say, oh, I treat OCD. And then you say things like, what's ERP therapy? ERP therapy is one of the gold standard treatment for OCD. They don't know what ERP is. Or they'll say things that are just incorrect when it comes to treatment of OCD. That goes against what the literature says. So you need to find a center dedicated to OCD. Check back in the other video, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. But number 2 is you need to find an OCD specialist. All right? Number 3, you have to inform your loved ones if you feel comfortable. But if you have a spouse, or if you're living at home with parents, or if you have somebody that you're very close with, and especially when your OCD is starting to infiltrate your whole life, which it will, especially if you're very severe or extreme, it's important that you, 1, let your loved ones know what you're going through, what OCD is. But then two, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have them read certain books and understand what OCD is. Because sometimes what your loved ones will do is they will do things for you that they think is helping you, but really it's not. It's just fueling your OCD. And OCD, unfortunately, is kind of a family affair. So it's important that they arm themselves so they know what to do when you're going through an OCD cycle. Again, I will go in depth about this if you look at the series of videos, but just to give a quick kind of snapshot, there are things now that my wife will not do for me, especially when I'm in an OCD cycle, that before she would have done, because now she knows, you know what, this might help Jonathan in the short run, but it's going to hurt him in the long term. So your loved ones, especially if you're married, you have a spouse, or you're living with somebody that's going to really be a big part of your life, you need to inform them about what you're going through. And then honestly, especially if it's a spouse or someone you're living with, they need to learn about OCD too. My wife and I write about this in our book, but there's a lot of things out there. So it's important, please, inform your loved ones. Let them get the information that they need to help you. Because honestly, OCD is a family affair. Okay? The fourth thing is you need to put in the work. What do I mean by this? Well, oftentimes I'll be talking to people about OCD and coaching them through certain things, and they'll just say, you know what, I'm going to do this later, or I really don't want to do this. And you know, I get it. I mean, when you have intrusive thoughts, and as you know, if you have OCD, or if you're talking to someone that has OCD, they can get very dark, very overwhelming, very just, you know, it just makes you feel terrible. Those don't usually just go away on their own. They go away by putting in the specific work that you're going to learn with your therapist through different forms of therapy. Again, check back the video to go a little bit more in detail. But you, and I want to get close, I want you to listen. You have to put in the work if you want to be successful and manage and overcome this disorder. So some of the things that you're going to learn in therapy aren't always the easiest or the funnest to do. Now, you're not going to do anything that's illegal or unethical or goes against your values or your religion or anything like that. But you know, you're going to have to go towards certain things. And that's going to be hard. You're going to have to talk about your feelings or talk about your thoughts to your therapist so that way they can show you what you're doing incorrectly. And it's not fun to talk about things that are that bad. But you need to put in the work. I can't emphasize this enough. And you can't just do it while you are in therapy. You have to do it throughout your day. I have found that when I struggle the most, it's usually when, as my therapist says, my compulsion game is not tightened up, right? I'm not following the right steps and I'm not doing it throughout the day. I focus on it during therapy, the day or two after, or the day or two before therapy, and then for the next week or two or three, it just kind of takes a back seat. And I get it, it's hard, but you've got to do the work, right? If you're going to go do anything that takes a lot of time, if you want to become a doctor, if you want to become an athlete, if you want to do anything worth doing, usually takes a lot of time, effort, and dedication. But the research, the science is clear that when you follow and do the work that has been shown to help OCD, you absolutely 100% can get better. Now, you may have some intrusive thoughts that are a little stickier than other people have for a little longer than you would like, but that's okay. I mean, it's going to get better, but you've got to put in the work, right? This really is your recipe for success. To kind of go back and summarize, again, listen, you need to learn about OCD. OCD is confusing, overwhelming, and there's a lot of bad information out there. So you have to learn about it and understand it before you can approach it, right? You don't just go drive a car, you learn how to drive a car. Okay, you got to learn what to do. So you've got to learn about OCD. You then need to find a specialist. I would recommend finding a center or somebody that only does OCD. My therapist just does OCD, nothing else. Those are the best type of people that you can go through, or at least someone that has a lot of experience, because you will find, I promise you, like I found, that there's bad information, and well-intentioned therapists will often not give you the right information. I would rather go to somebody that I know has been through therapy, like some fellow advocates that I know that do talk about OCD online. I'd rather go to them for questions about things that are OCD specific than go to a therapist that I don't know if they have OCD experience, but they are a licensed therapist or psychologist. I honestly mean it. I'd go to them over them with the question, because there's a great chance they are misinformed. But if this person has gone through OCD treatment and they have learned about it from a specialist, they're going to understand the right approach. So they're the someone that I'd want to talk to. Inform your loved ones. It's hard, it's not fun. My wife didn't enjoy it, but to help everybody, to help this person suffering and to help your family, you need to inform them, and they need to inform themselves so they know what to do. That's important. And lastly, again, everybody, you've got to put in the work. It's not fun. So listen, please check back, because I'm going to have one video for each one of these going into a little bit more detail. But again, listen, OCD is manageable. You can do it. You can get through this. You just have to put in the work. As always, everybody, stay strong. Be an OCD warrior. We can all get through this together. Have a good one. Stay strong.